Today I'm going to be discussing the procedure to import GIS data into Civil 3D. I know a lot of people do it, but I find that a lot of people aren't doing it properly. On my screen, I've got an example of some of the mistakes people make. Um, I have four different types of GIS data in this drawing, and they've all been imported, but they've all been imported wherever they land, according to their files. As you can see, the line here, just I have that there just to make it easier for you to follow where they're all imported. At the endpoint of each one of these lines is a different file. One endpoint I have some contour data. This was imported by a shapefile, and if you look at any of these contours, no elevations to them. I'll talk about how to resolve that later. I also have a DGN file, microstation file, that was imported, and this has roads and rivers and so on. I also have a raster image file, a TIFF file of the same county. All these are the same county, and I have a US map showing the county map. It's a county map of the US, of all the counties in the US. What most people do is they import this data, then they move it around, scale it around, up or down, however they need to, so it can fit properly into their drawing. However, Civil 3D will do this for you automatically if you just know how to do it. So let me show you how to do it. Let's get started here. First, I'm going to start a new drawing. I'm using a straight out of the box Civil 3D template, nothing fancy to it. And I'm going to go ahead and switch on over to the Planning and Analysis workspace, aka Map 3D. Okay, as most of us know, Civil 3D is built on top of Map 3D, so all the Map 3D functionality happens to be within Civil 3D. And my map task pane has already been set to come up automatically. If yours doesn't come up at the command line, it's map W space. You can turn it on or turn it off. I'll turn it off just so you can see. It goes away. Map W space, turn it on, we'll bring it back. And I'm primarily going to be focusing on the Map Explorer tab. So the first thing I'm going to bring in is that United States county map. First thing I'm going to do is assign a coordinate system to my drawing that the county map has to it. I found this. All this data that I'm using today I found off of freely distributed websites that are out there. They have them for you freely. You can pay for some, but everything I'm doing today is found freely. So the county map came from the USGS website, and through my research on their website, found that the datum that it uses is lat long, no datum assigned to it. So therefore, if you look here, it's no datum, latitude, longitude, degrees, negative 180, positive 180. This is the exact code that I need. If I knew the code, I didn't have to search for it. I could simply type it in. This is the code that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to select that, and there's where I could have typed in the code. I'm going to use that to assign to this drawing. So therefore, my drawing is now in that coordinate system. Once I have that, I use this map import tool. You can type in map import, or you can click on this button for those typers out there, and you're going to want to change your file type to whatever type of file you're going to be bringing in. There's all sorts of files here. If you could just look through my list here, or when you get a chance, do it on your own. I'm going to be focusing on a shapefile, and this is the county shapefile. I'm going to hit OK. And if I made a mistake earlier and I didn't assign the correct coordinate zone, I could reassign it here, so it's not set in stone. This button does the exact same thing that I did earlier. I'm just a creature of habit, and I usually set it first before I go anywhere else. So there it is in the lat long. I'm going to assign my drawing, my data, the coordinate zone that it was brought in, and that happens to be no datum as well. So this is the code that came with the file. So therefore, this shapefile has this assigned to it, and it will be imported into this drawing, which has the same coordinate zone. That's just my checks and balances for me. This is highly important. You want to select on the data option and highlight this, activate this hidden ellipsis button right here. I'm going to click on that button, and this is going to allow me to assign the attribute data that comes with the shapefile. Most shapefiles have object data tables with them. So I'm going to use that object data, and as you can see, the object data table comes with it and is already embedded in there. Some have more than one, but this was the one that came with this particular shapefile. And the object data table is the data that's assigned to the line work or the text or whatever is inside this particular shapefile. As you can see, I have all sorts of data that I can filter and query into my drawing. I'm going to focus primarily on states and counties here in a little while, but I need to assign this object data table to my data, or else I will not have that ability. So make sure you do that when you import the shapefile. Another important feature I want to point out is this import polygons as closed polylines. If you don't do this, what happens is all the polylines that are enclosed, say circular polylines or whatever type of shape that are enclosed, you will get a region or what it looks like a hatch on your screen, and you're limited as to what you can do with that. And that's not going to do you any good. So in this case, I don't want to have a big hatch going across my entire United States. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and I'm going to let it do its thing so it can bring in the shapefile accordingly. As you can see at my command line, it imported 6,408 objects in 6 seconds. So where are they? Well, let's zoom extents, and there they are. As you can see, I've got every single county in the US. Now, I also want to point this out right here, this little feature right here. I get the phone call a lot on what is it, how do I turn it off. I can zoom in and out and it doesn't change size. You can try to erase it, you can try to select it, it's not going to go away. This happens to be your geo marker. To turn it off, the command happens to be geo marker visibility. What I usually do is I type in geo and hit tab until I see it at the bottom of my screen, at my command line. And there it is, GeoMarker visibility. Hit enter. It's basically a 1 or a 0, on or off. 1 is on, 0 is off. Okay, I'm going to leave it on for the discussion of this this webinar here. As you look down here at my tracking coordinates right here, as I move around, as I get closer to that geomarker, you'll see that I get closer to 0, and as the geomarker actually tells me, this is my 0 point for my latitude longitude. So this is where my shapefile is using as reference. Okay. For what I'm going to be doing, I don't need these islands out here. I don't need Hawaii. I don't need Alaska. I just need the United States. Now that I have this done, I'm going to go ahead and do a save on this drawing. I'm going to just call it USA. Okay, it's my USA. So I'm going to save it, and I'm practically done with this drawing for now. Okay, you're going to find that I'm going to be doing several of these open and closed drawings, and you're going to go, well, why are you doing so many? But in the end, I bring them all together. I promise you, this is the proper way to do it. It seems a lot of work, but I promise you this is the best way. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is start a brand new drawing, and this is the one that I'm going to use to do my text dot importation here. Okay. So I'm just going to stay with the map import, and I am going to navigate over to my DGN data file, change my files of type to DGN. So let me come down here to MicroStation file DGN, and there it is. Now I talk about the metadata, so let me explain to you what the metadata looks like here in a little while. Let me go ahead and bring that up. The metadata for the DGN file happens to be right here. Okay, so when you import and download data off of any GIS website, you're probably going to be getting a whole bunch of data with it: PRJ files, DGN files, code files. I also have some for the other shape files that I'm going to be looking at. All this data here. You don't want to get rid of that. That's highly useful information that you're going to need. Another mistake most people make in this case, let me talk about the DGN file, is like, I only need this file, so let me just erase everything else. But before you erase it, you have to understand that these are the files that this file is using to do the GIS importation properly. So according to this text.dgn file, I see that this happens to be a text.file, okay, and it's a NAD 27. Okay, so that gives me pretty much what I need here, and then I can look at the projection, the ellipsoid, the datum. If you're really going deeper into the GIS world, this all makes sense to you. So with that being said, I am now going to go ahead and import my file. The first thing I need to do is assign the coordinate zone to my drawing. Earlier I did it over here, but I'm doing it here because I wanted to show you that I can do it over here as well. Let's go select the coordinate system, and I do know the code, but I am going to go ahead and show you that depending on what you're looking at, I happen to be in Texas, so I'm going to scroll down and find what I need. This is text.27, the NAD 27 text state plane, statewide coordinate zones, international foot. That is the coordinate zone I need. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one. And again, like I said, if you know the code, you could type it in there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and assign that coordinate zone to my drawing as well. Now you'll see I have a lot of these. I actually have 63 of these. 63 being the levels that are inside of the MicroStation file. So what I'm going to do is assign one. Let's go back to Texas. And let's go back to the text.27 and say select. I will then right click on this and copy, and right click on the heading, right click on it again and paste to all layers. So therefore now all of them are assigned to text.27. You don't want to do this one by one. It just doesn't make sense to. The data, I am going to go ahead and click this button and assign the object data table that comes with this one. This one happens to use default 0, and those fields have class and color and so on. Not really going to use those that much, but I will definitely turn them on, and then I will right click and use input layer names for table names. Copy, and then use it. There we go. Sorry, it's right click on the data heading and then use import names. So therefore they all get assigned the correct default data they need. Okay. Before I come down here and talk about the import polygons as closed polylines again, let's talk about the driver options. Whenever you see this button turned on, or the ability to click on it, you want to click on it. Now there's really nothing, I found nothing in here that I need to edit or change. It seems to be working fine the way it is, but what this does is it activates the importation elements for this particular file, and if you just click on it and hit OK, they're activated, and then turn on the polygons as closed polylines and hit OK. Now this one takes a little bit. It's got a little bit more data, roads, rivers, and so on. But this happens to be the file that I'm going to be using to kind of isolate where I need to be, and maybe road design as well. So depending on the size of the file will depend on how long it takes to import this the data. Some are larger, of course, some are smaller. It all depends on where you get it. Again, I got all this data. This particular file came from the TNRIS website, TNRIS, T-N-R-I-S, and it's free data that's out there, and it's got you can navigate to that website, and you can download it, and all the data that you need for the website for the file is in that website as well. So let's give it some time here. I know it's almost done because I think it's somewhere in like the 68,000 range. Yep, that's where it was. So now that it's going through, it's updating my drawing, and as you can see, I have 68,000 objects imported into my drawing. Zoom extents and let it refresh. Come on, there we go. this is my my DGN file. So now that I have this and it's assigned to the correct coordinate zone for this particular file, I'm going to go ahead and save. And I'm going to call this one TC for Travis County, because that's where I happen to be, DGN data, or DGN. Okay, so I know this is the TC DGN file. Save that. And I'm done with this. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. Start a brand new drawing. And let's bring in some contour data. Actually, no. Let's go ahead and bring in some raster data. Okay. Oh, actually, let me see here. Yeah, we'll do the raster data. So, what I'm going to do is for the raster data, and I'm not going to use the map import for the raster data. I'm going to import an image. Okay. Now, the image happens to be in a different coordinate zone. So this one, again, I looked at the metadata to bring in the coordinate zone, and since I do know the code, I think you got the point here. I'm going to type it in UTM. It's UTM-A3-14F. This is the coordinate zone that the raster file came in, the image file. Okay, and again, that all can be found through the metadata. Hit OK, and I've assigned that coordinate zone to this drawing. Now I'm going to go ahead and import the image. Map I insert. Make sure you pay close attention to the fact that it's map I insert if you're a typer, not map insert. Okay, map I insert. So I'm going to use the map image insert, and the file that I'm going to be using happens to be this N30W0973 image file. Okay, and as you can see, the coordinate zones that it's picking up comes from the file itself. It actually has the zone and everything that it needs in that file. Okay, values, insertion point, and everything that it comes in. So in this particular case, I don't have to mess around with any of these settings here. Now, there have been some instances in my time playing with this where I actually had to change the point density, insertion point and density of the units, and change the pick the value for my insertion point, just so I can get this to work right, playing with it and manipulating it. But in this particular case, it happens to work just fine because the creation source comes from the image file. Okay, so I hit OK, zoom extents, and there's my image. And again, I'm done with this. So let's go ahead and save this file. And I call this one Travis County image, TC image. Okay. And as you can see, there's my geo marker right there. So therefore, it's dead center of my image, and I know that's correct. So I'm done with this. The last thing I want to do is the contour data. So start a brand new drawing. Okay, and I am going to assign my drawing the same coordinate system that the contour data comes in, and that contour data happens to be LL83. Okay, that datum, latitude, longitude, degrees. Okay, so NAT 83. I'm going to hit OK, and my drawing now has a coordinate system. I am now going to import, use the map import button, and I'm going to navigate over, first change my file type to a shapefile, navigate over to my Travis County shapefile data, and I have spot elevations and I have contour data. I'm just going to use the contour data here. Okay, and my contour data, I will now go ahead and let's see here. I've got the latitude, longitude 83. It's already got the coordinate zone, bringing it in from the data file. And let's go ahead and assign it the object data. This is highly important again, because in order for you to get those elevations on these contours, this must be assigned to it. If you do not assign this object data table, which it happens to come with, you will see that there is an elevation option in here, right there. If you do not assign this object data table to these contours, your contours will all be rendered with a 0 elevation, and you will just be upset at the file and whoever made the file. So let's go ahead and import these polygons as closed polylines. Hit OK. Let it do its thing. Zoom extents, and you'll see that they still have an elevation of 0. So this is where a lot of people get frustrated. I'm going to show you how to import this into your drawing with the correct elevation. Okay. Now that I have this file, and for purposes of making it easier to see later, I'm going to go ahead and find the drawing, the layer that this file came in on, and it's right there. It came in on that. It uses the name of the file, and I'm going to assign it a different color. Yellow will be fine, just so you can see it later when I bring it in. Okay. I'm done with this. Let's save this file. I'm going to call this one TC Contours, Travis County Contours. Okay, almost done. The last thing we need to do is bring all this data together. Okay, I've got 4 separate drawings, and these drawings can be used over and over and over again in different locations, different drawings, and so on. So you may not want to get rid of them right away. Okay, so this is going to be my project drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and do a save as, and I'm going to call this one project 001. Save. Okay. So the scenario here is I'm going to be working in a totally different coordinate system that I've been showing you so far. So I'm going to assign my coordinate system. This one happens to be, I'm going to be using TX83-CFs, which happens to be Texas State Plains Central Zone US Foot. This is going to be my working file. This is what the client has asked for in this particular case. So I'm going to hit OK. So all 4 of my files, and actually all 5 of them, including this one, are in different coordinate zones. I need them all to come together. To do so, we have to attach and query in each one. The first thing I'm going to do is attach a drawing. In the Map Explorer tab, right-click on Drawings and click on Attach. Okay. Navigate to the folder. Make sure you don't save those drawings in your desktop, because you can't create a map drive to a desktop. But navigate to the folder where you saved them, and I'm going to first bring in the US map. Okay. Add and hit OK. So in essence, this works kind of like an XREF, but you can zoom extents all day long and you won't see anything. Okay, I did a zoom extents. I just have my geo marker for my Texas 83 central zone, central foot marker that it's showing me here. Nothing really happens until I actually query in the data that I need. So let's talk about showing you the query. And remember, when you define your query, there's different ways of doing it. All I did was right click on current query and clicked on define, and it brings up this dialog box. I can do it in so many different ways. So there's the location option. I usually do this just to test it. I'm going to do all and hit OK. And I always do a preview first. So execute the query. Okay. Do a zoom extents. And there's the map of my United States. Now again, this is just a preview, so when you hover over this, the whole thing shows up. And I'm going to do a regen, and it goes away. So, well, I don't need the whole map of the United States. So let's go modify this query. Select query, right click, and define. Okay, so now that I know that it's coming in, I'm going to go ahead and come back and delete that option so I don't do the whole query. I'm going to do a data. Okay, from the object data table. So I click on data and I can tell it where I needed to go get the data from. Well, there's the object data. From the object data table, I'd like for it to bring in a state equal to, as you can see, I have different operators here. I'm going to use TX. Now, it is case sensitive in this case. Depending on how the object data was built will depend on how the object data is imported. Okay. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to do a preview again. Okay, so there is only the state of Texas. Okay, I'm going to take it one step further. Let's go ahead and define that query. I'm going to select this and I'm going to go edit this. Instead of bringing in the county, instead of bringing in the state, I'm going to bring in the county. And this county that I'm going to be bringing in happens to be called Travis County. Hit OK. Hit preview. And now I filtered it down to the county that I'm going to be working in. Once I get what I need, I not only come back here and do a preview, I change that to draw. Okay? And once I draw it, it's part of my drawing. I can regen all day long, but this is part of my drawing now. Okay? Now, once I get what I need from this shapefile, or I don't need to have this attached anymore, it's very important that you detach it after you query in the objects you want. The reason so is because Map 3D uses a save set type of option where I can save data back to the original file should I edit this at all. I don't want to have that linkage back and forth right now. I just want to bring this in and work on it. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and bring in the DGN data. I'm going to go ahead and right click on drawings, attach, and let's go bring in the TC DGN file. Okay, again, there it is. And I'm going to go ahead and query what I need in. So define. I'm done with this, so I can delete that. Let's do a location. Let's do all. Hit OK, and always do preview when you're doing this, just to make sure that you don't draw it into your drawing. It should fall right in the middle of my county outline, give or take a few rows that are extending outward. And as you can see, there it is. Now, let's go one step further. Let's talk a little bit more about querying here. I'm going to go ahead and back to define, and I'm going to go ahead and edit this query. You know, naturally, I don't want to be working in the entire county if my job is going to be somewhere in this area. I could do a circle or a fence or a polygon or a polyline or a window. I'll do a window here. Anything that crosses the window will be queried in, or anything completely inside the window. If you understand your selection methods, crossing versus selection, this is what I'm going to be using here. So I'm going to define, I'm going to zoom in here, and let's just say that my project is in this area right there for whatever reason. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. So now I am doing a query of just anything that crosses a window. Let's execute that query. And so there's my work area. As you can see, now I can bring in just less data than what's already there, only what I need, because I don't need the whole county, and this keeps my file sizes down. So once I see that's what I want, I go ahead and hit the draw button. Okay. Now, I did forget to show you something here earlier, but that's not a problem. I'll come back and show you this in a little. Okay. So the contour data. I forgot to show you that the contour data, let's go back to the properties here. When you bring up the properties dialog box of the contour data, as you can see, it's got an elevation of 0. Okay, but see this section right here? This is object data. Reading off that object data table, this particular contour has an elevation of 620. Okay, so this is how I know that there is elevation data assigned to it. This one's got 580. Okay, so I'm going to be using that object data table to import my contours with elevations. I'm done with my DGN file, so I'm going to go ahead and detach it. Okay, clear those messages, and now let's go ahead and bring in the contour data. So attach the contours, hit OK, and let's go ahead and right click on query, current query, and define. Again, the first thing I do, I use this as a check, location, all, hit OK, preview, and I'm going to hit execute the query, give it some time. So okay, there are my contours coming in right where I need them to be as well. Of course, I don't need all the contours of this. I just need whatever my working area is. Again, it's a preview, so if I do a regen, they're gone. Okay. So now let's go ahead and define. I'm going to take that location and edit that. Let's do another window, crossing. I'll define it, and I'm going to take it just a step out further than what I already have here. Okay. Hit OK. Now, if I go ahead and draw right now, I'm going to be bringing in those contour lines, but they will only have an elevation of 0 to it. To make sure you bring in the contours with elevations, you got to go to this Alter Properties button. Click on that Alter Properties button and you'll be taken to this dialog box here. I want to bring in the elevation data, and I need to then go select the expression button. This expression button says, okay, you're going to bring in elevation. Where do you want to get the elevation data from? Well, there's an object data table there. This is the object data table that I used that came with the file. And in that object data table, there's elevation data there with it. So I'm going to hit OK. And then if I don't hit add, nothing happens. So I have to hit add. And you can see that it's bringing in the elevation from this elevation data table. And hit OK. Okay. You'll see that this is not checked on. There's data there waiting for me, but it's not checked on until I hit draw. Okay, now it's going to use the alter properties that I had already altered in it. So I execute that query. Anything that crossed that box that I drew was brought in, and if you look, it's got an elevation assigned to it. This one happens to be 800. This one happens to be 820, and so on. So now I've got contour data that I can use. The last thing I need to do is import that image file. So I'm going to detach this, clear my messages, and let's go ahead and attach the image file and run a query on it. Now, I don't need the crossing window anymore, so actually I can clear the query. I can uncheck the alter properties. Now the problem with image files is I don't have the ability to query in just an area, because the whole image is one object. So whether I like it or not, I have to do all. And if I do a preview, all I'm going to get in the preview is nothing. The query source is not available or empty. Oh, actually, the reason it's not available is because I didn't attach my image file. Sorry about that. Okay, so if I do a query and define it, I don't need that anymore. I don't need this anymore. Let's do a location, all, hit OK, and let's do a preview. And when I do the preview, I get a box showing the outline of where the image will be. Again, I can't limit my image to just this area. Okay, so I'm gonna have to use what it gives me. So that's where my image is gonna be brought in. So let's go back to the query, let's go define, and then instead of preview, I'm gonna hit draw and hit execute that query. And now the query works in a draw order fashion. So I'm gonna select the image is there. Since it was the last thing drawn, I can now go ahead and send it to the back, and you'll see, come on. You'll see that now I've got the image, I've got my contour data, I've got my DGN data, and I'm ready to go ahead and proceed back to Civil 3D and do the work that I need. It's fairly simple, but like I said, you have to create the 4 separate drawings, bring them into one so that it works properly.